Hi everyone, my name is Katharina, I'm 27 years old and I'm from Austria. I love good bread, as it is a well-known fact about me here, and the Chronicles of Narnia are by far my favorite books. I grew up in a Catholic family, so praying and going to Mass was very normal and also very beautiful for me when I was a child. I loved to read all the stories in my children's Bible. When my grandfather, who is a deacon, read the Gospel at Mass, I was like, oh, I know this story already. When I grew up as a child, I never was a social butterfly, but I felt safe and loved. I saw God as the Father who listens and hears my prayers. In Austria, we changed schools around age 10. When this happened to me, things changed. I knew 2 friends from primary school, but overall there were different people, new teachers, and for the first time in my life, I felt I needed to be different. I saw that the kids who were sporty, who knew everything about movies and celebrities, or who were more outspoken, were considered more popular. I often compared myself to other people, thinking that I wasn't a very interesting person then, and having nothing interesting to offer, because I didn't tick those boxes. As I gradually transitioned into my teenager years, I did not receive the affirmation I desperately wanted at school. I noticed that I was more quiet and introverted, and I thought I needed to be more bubbly and just different. Moreover, I was made fun of because of my faith. I felt like an outsider, too shy to approach others and talk to them, because I had the fear of rejection, since I was not welcomed in the cool circles from the beginning. I remember when I invited 2 popular girls to my birthday party, hoping they'd invite me back, which they never did. This led me to further withdrawing and believing more and more that I was weird. Internally, I started to believe that there is something wrong with me, and that it was my fault. I prayed to God and hoped He would change the circumstances or the situation, but He didn't. Although I had faith in God, deep down I believed in a way that God was passive, leaving me to handle these things by myself. Sometimes I felt God's presence when I prayed, but I believed that if I didn't feel His presence, that He couldn't hear me or wouldn't answer my prayer. I thought that I need to make an effort for God to hear me. The belief about myself that I wasn't good enough extended to my prayer life, that my prayers were just sometimes not good enough for God if they weren't answered. My trust I had in Him as a child kind of wavered. Throughout school, I had a few individual friendships, but I struggled with self-esteem issues, because I didn't really feel that I could fit in or ever would. This instilled also a lot of fear of rejection and shame in me. When I finished school, I visited some friends in Italy who I had met online, but never in person before. They welcomed me with open arms and with such a joy as if they knew me my whole life. To be fair, they're Italians. But still, I was so surprised because they accepted me the way I am. It felt like I was getting to know myself through their eyes. That's when I thought, hold on, I can thrive in a good environment. Maybe it's not me who is the problem, but the environment I'm in. Maybe the environment in school was just not good for me. During this time in Italy, I always went to Mass with my friends Rachel and Angela. After Mass, the priest there asked me if I would like him to pray for me, with my friends present. During one of the prayers, I suddenly felt transformed, like a new Kathi, more self-confident and hopeful. I hadn't understood anything, as the priest prayed in Italian, but after it, Angela asked me how I felt. When I told her my experience, she was amazed. Well, this was exactly what the priest had prayed for. So, I had finished school, and one plan didn't quite work out as I hoped. I didn't know what to do, except that I wanted to go abroad to have a change of perspective. I prayed and discerned a lot of things, but eventually I came across a 2-month Bible program in England. I wanted to invest in my relationship with God, so I applied. At the Bible school program, I had a similar experience like in Italy. As fears were still rooted very deeply in me, it was a pivotal moment for me when I first heard the song, "I am no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God." It hit me because I felt personally addressed. I also remember talking to someone about my fears, and they responded that my fears stem from a lack of trust in God. This made me feel really angry and misunderstood at that time. But something was changing as well. I began to flourish in the community there because I found a couple of people that had similar interests, and they affirmed me the way I am. This really affected the image I had of myself, and some of the lies I had about myself began to crumble. 1 year later, as I was at university, the old patterns of not feeling good enough resurfaced. It was a very big struggle for me to trust God, because I still doubted that He would actually take care of me. Again, I compared myself to the people around me, thinking that literally everyone around me was probably better than I was. I believed that I was less than. I was so afraid of failing exams, afraid of being embarrassed in class, afraid of not being good enough. I desperately tried to have control, which meant that I believed that everything relied on my abilities. But then I couldn't trust my own abilities, so I felt quite stuck. My own inner beliefs weighed me down. Ultimately, I underestimated God, and I underestimated myself. Every time I had an exam or a paper to write, I was afraid that God would leave me on my own, or even wanting me to fail. Could I really trust God? I wasn't so sure. But God would show me that He was there with me, and that He takes care of me no matter what. One time, I couldn't sit for a major exam, which was one of the most important exams, because I got sick. So I had to register for the next date, which was really disappointing for me and very hard to accept. But then I had more time to prepare, and the date of the exam was the feast day of the patron saint of the year I had randomly chosen a few months prior, who was Saint Joseph of Cupertino, the patron saint of final exams. So God led me on a journey of trust, and in what seems small ways, God would show me that He's trustworthy, and that even in difficulties, He can transform the situation. By the way, I passed that exam. Thank you, Saint Joseph of Cupertino. In 2023, I really felt that God put the word trust on my heart, and it became my word of the year. I came across so many Bible verses that confirmed this word. What I also remember is talking to a person that helped me to see how my fears and misconceptions about myself are rooted in lack of trust in God. I had heard the exact same thing 6 years prior, but this time my heart was ready to receive the truth. I began to learn to differentiate between the voice of Jesus and the voice of the inner critic, who accuses me of not being enough and not doing enough. It was as if God led me on this journey of climbing a mountain. Without Him, I was stuck and didn't know how to go further, because every time I would try to take a step, my fears would return. Only when in my heart I finally decided that I want to trust God, I was able to move forward. One thing that also really helped me in building trust was that God restored some friendships in my life, and also sent people in my life that I could be honest with, share my struggles with them, and asking them for help. In a way, these friends also showed me that God is trustworthy, because I could see them practicing and living out trust in God more than I was. God provided people that I could be myself around, people that affirmed me, and slowly a journey of healing began. Since coming to Holy Family Mission, God has led me even deeper on a journey of healing in my identity, helping me to uproot lies about myself and to replace them with the truth. He has also provided a community where I can be myself and am loved and accepted for who I am. From deciding to trust God in my mind to trusting God with my heart is a journey I'm still on. When I look back, there were many times in my life when I didn't believe that God takes care of me, but He was actually with me the whole time. In the last 2 years, I learned to really believe that He hears my prayers, even if I don't feel it, and that He's got my best intentions at heart. In the past, I struggled with my self-esteem, believing and fearing that I should be different or that I'm not good enough. Sometimes, some of these fears still come up, but they don't affect me that much anymore. In order to change the distorted image about myself and to believe my identity as a beloved daughter, belonging to God the Father, I had to challenge my beliefs and my image about God Himself. Now I know that God isn't passive, but that He is always at work in my life. Holy Family Mission is truly a place of transformation for me. Like a butterfly that finally sees his own colors, I'm more and more learning to see myself as God made me. And I know I can trust Him because He knows me very well. He has called me by name, I am His. When I pass through the waters, He is with me, and when I walk through fire, I am not burned. I am precious in His sight and honored, and He loves me. Isaiah 43. Thank you for supporting Holy Family Mission, and thank you for listening to my testimony. God bless.